This is a lot of very expensive cameras in my hand. This is the Hasselblad X2D, and I am holding the Fujifilm GFX100s. These are both 100 megapixel cameras, and essentially what I want to do today is compare them, but we're going to be focusing primarily on the color rendition. We're looking at skin tones, we're looking at reds, greens, blues, yellows, and all of that other great stuff. So let's start shooting. I can't shoot with both hands, so I'm gonna hand the Fujifilm over to my friend Angel. So let's go meet Angel, amazing photographer. Hello, sir. We hand over the Fujifilm to you, and I take my Hasselblad strap back. We got two models. We got this amazing red Porsche. I think we just start shooting. You're gonna go first.
Yeah, I'll go first.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll get you looking into the abyss. Yeah, perfect, just like that. Looks great.
Do you want a little bit of bounce on her at all? Like a little bit of gold?
Let's see how it looks.
God, making me work for this. If you say you want silver after this, I'm gonna lose it.
Yeah, it's pretty light. Okay, perfect, I think I got it.
Hasselblad time. I don't want the strap anymore. I feel unprotected. Looking out, amazing. It's definitely like a slower shutter. Like you have to be way more purposeful with your shooting. Let's get a bit more on her, like kind of like, yeah, right there. Perfect. And looking at me. Okay, sweet. Okay, so we're gonna swap cameras right now. We're gonna shoot some wide photos and then get some photos of the models here. Passing the torch. Okay, let's shoot. I want to see how this camera handles yellows in particular, like really bright yellows. So what we've done is we've put, Danny's got these like yellow Pumas. Let's just throw it by the tires here and see what it looks like. Danny, I need your yellow feet. Yeah, this is cool. Yeah, let's get the bounce and perfect. Can you bring your head out a little bit more if it's possible? Yeah, that's cool, dude. Okay, sweet. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, leaning against the car. Yeah, just like that, perfect. One more. Okay.
I'm finally on my way to all my better days. Don't care what people say, I make the world my stage. Life is a beach, I hit the ocean trying to catch a wave. Dive in the water, all my problems seem to float away.
Every time, every photo shoot, when you go out into the world, you deal with this. Sick.
Okay, doing good.
There we go. Next location. Yeah, that's good. That's probably good. Yeah. So George, can I just get you like leaning against it? Yeah, dude, looks great. Perfect, right there is great. Yeah, man, this is awesome. Man, the colors really do look like really good. It's like wild how noticeable it is, eh?
It's a big difference.
Wow, I'm getting excited to edit these now. Okay, sick.
I don't even know if you need to edit them at this point.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Hold on. Okay.
Dope. Before we look at these photos with Angel, I just want to deep dive a little bit more on HNCS, which is Hasselblad's natural color science. So Hasselblad has been around for a very long time, so they have a deep understanding of how to bring natural colors together. And they do this through independently developed lookup tables, also known as LUTs, film curves, and unique color processing that adapts to any situation and light. The combination of all those things that I just mentioned allow for true contrast and richer saturation. It even handles tricky, subtle tones well. For example, it keeps skin tones looking smooth in between highlights and shadows. And although the Hasselblad and the Fuji have the exact same sensor, it doesn't mean that you're going to get the exact same quality. What Hasselblad does is different than what Fuji does, and that is something that has been developed over the years. So this is your chance to kind of pixel peep a little bit. I will also make some of these files available to download. For example, when we talk about sharpness, you can go and download those things below. So let's go and chat with Angel and start comparing these images. We've been looking at these photos in a monitor In bright daylight, the ultimate test is right now. What are your initial thoughts?
Camera was really good. We'll see how monitor holds up.
Okay, something pops like right away. What are you seeing?
I mean, the Fuji is orange. The car is not red anymore.
Yeah, when you look at the Hasselblad, that's exactly what the color of the car was on location, and it just looks like amazing. If we zoom in on the tire here, and we actually go and zoom in here, like that side by side is so evident of that like color shift.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at some of these other colors. Let's kind of zoom into the corner of the shirt here. I kind of like the Fuji, how it's handling it. There might be some like, something to consider here is that we were bouncing some like yellow gold light off the reflectors, so she might be getting a little bit more of that, but like they're pretty similar relative. Both of these look good, but like the red is just really standing out here. Okay, so let's do our greens next. I think the Hasselblad is actually handling the greens better than the Fuji. What do you think?
I mean, I agree. On the Fuji, it's like muddy in a sort of way.
Yeah.
There's a lot of editing you'll probably have to do to save the greens on the Fuji, just because you have to consider the reds as well.
And I'm just going to show you a few more images that I shot on the weekend, and just to show you how the Hasselblad is actually handling the greens. Especially in this photo, you have a variety of like deep, rich greens, and in this one here, a little bit more of those like lighter greens, and there's such a variety, a spectrum of greens in this image, and it really gives you a sense of how this camera is handling all those green tones. One of the other colors that I want to focus in on is yellows. Now, what I think is interesting about this photo is I have some like initial thoughts about the yellows in combination with the skin tones specifically. So let's like zoom in on Danny's shoes, because we made him wear these like Pikachu shoes. There's like a few like initial thoughts. So like, interestingly enough, I actually think that the Fuji is handling the yellows in like a really nice way. Like it's more like vibrant, but if we like zoom out, if we look at the skin tones between like Danny and both, like it does read cooler.
You're in a weird situation no matter what. You're gonna have to probably put into Photoshop and mask it in anyway. Like you see how flatter it is on the highlights? Like it really absorbs the highlights. It reminds me of an actual film shot. Yeah. Because film absorbs highlights really well.
Let's take a look at one more comparison of how these two cameras are actually handling the yellow tones. So if we're looking again, on the left side is the Hasselblad, and on the right side is the Fujifilm. At first glance, they do look very similar, but if I had to just do a gut reaction of like what looked truer to location, what looks truer to location is going to be the Hasselblad. But this is a pretty like equivalent battle, if I'm being honest here. I personally like the way that the yellow luminance is being handled on the Hasselblad versus the Fuji, and you can really see this in the shoelaces. And if we look at this photo of this old American home that I took when I was visiting the States, you can see that the more like toned down yellow is being handled really, really nicely here. We've looked at a spectrum of colors, but I thought I'd do a quick look at how the Hasselblad handles blue colors. So we have the blue of this Indy car right here. And just in terms of the highlights, especially when you're shooting cars, it can often get blown out in a lot of those colors. And if we zoom in on the blue here of this car, you can really see like that just looks great in terms of how the blue is being handled, both in the shadows and in the highlights. Okay, sharpness. All right, this is gonna be our ultimate test. Let's zoom in. There we go, 100 megapixels, very impressive. Now we're just like, we're pixel peeping like crazy here.
It's sharper on the Hasselblad.
Let's pick another spot, like even the car. Honestly, if you look at the logo, specifically on the Porsche logo side by side there, you can really see that it's a little softer on the Fuji, and it's just like tack sharp. And again, these settings are like identical. I just want to make a quick note here. I know that sharpness is often hard to tell when you're looking at a phone or you're looking at a screen, so switch to 4K if you do want to see the resolution of these images, but I'll also make these two photos available to download in the description if you want to go and check them out on your own computer and look at a side by side. Okay, there's our sharpness. And let's go into our crop here. Let's see. I mean, personally, I would say they're comparable. What do you think?
The Hasselblad is sharper. The Hasselblad is consistently sharp within the subject area, where in the Fuji it falls off.
Also, just like I feel like the Hasselblad is handling the shadows better, even if I'm just
super blue on the on the Fuji.
Like it's too crushed on the Fuji almost.
It is really crushed.
Okay, so there's our crop. So we're gonna look at the base ISO of both of these cameras. So for the Fujifilm, it's 50 ISO, and for the base ISO of the Hasselblad, it is 64 ISO. So let's compare those two. So if we just look at the images side by side, I kind of already have like a natural favorite in this situation, but if we're looking particularly at clean ISO, it's gonna be one of those things where like, you know, once we zoom in, maybe we can see a bit more. They're both fairly clean images. Like, you know, we're really pixel peeping at this point. I just still feel like my eye, in terms of like skin tones, in terms of color, in terms of, you know, base ISO, what looks cleaner, just in like more sharp, is going to be the Hasselblad on this side. But again, overall, both have very clean base ISOs. Now we're gonna take a look at how these images handle post-production when we're pushing certain colors to their limit, especially in the HSL when we're looking at luminance, hue, and saturation. So let's dive into our image. Again, on the left is the Hasselblad, on the right is the Fuji. At first glance, we can kind of see richer colors overall in the Hasselblad, but let's start to like really play with this HSL a little bit. So if we take the Fuji, let's just go right in here and boost up those luminance, saturation, and hue, and just see how everything's kind of handled. It's always funny when you do this kind of stuff. It always just looks so gross. And let's do the same thing for our Hasselblad. Boop. One of the things I am noticing just with this image right out of the gate is that the colors are starting to blow out a bit more on the Fujifilm over here. So a lot of the highlights are starting to really like overexpose. The image just looks overall more washed out than the Hasselblad. You're still retaining a lot of the color information, even though you've pushed the image to its limits here. So again, the HSL for the orange and the yellow are all pushed to 100%. And you can see there's just more color information that's being retained on the Hasselblad side. Since this video is brought to you by Hasselblad, I thought I'd show you some of my favorite photos that I took with the X2D camera. So this is the photo here, this is the before, and this is the after. The files are just so easy to work with from my experience with this camera. Once you import it, the colors already look pretty natural, so you don't have to make too many tweaks to make a nice image. But even if you are using presets, it handles the adjustments really well. So let's take a look at some of these other ones. Again, this is like minor tweaks from like the before and afterwards to get an image that I like. Here we have some more like intense, more film-ic type of shots. So again, before, after, just a really beautiful image. And it's always one of those things once you start to zoom in and really see the quality and resolution out of this camera that you start to really see the long-term benefits of having 100 megapixels. Here's one of the portrait shots that we took. Here's a more stylized like landscape type of architecture shot. Again, you start to go into these details, you know, 300%. And here's how it handles really strong adjustments with greens. It's just, everything is so rich. The contrast is true. Overall, I've just been really impressed with this camera. I think one of the things that you really hear often about Hasselblad is their color science. And after my experience with this camera for the last week, I can say that I'm very much impressed with the natural colors that come out of this camera. That's essentially our comparison between the Hasselblad X2D and the Fujifilm GFX100s. Curious what your thoughts are. If you have any ideas, leave them in the comment section below. If you guys like this video, please press like. It actually makes a difference. Subscribe and hit the bell to be notified for future videos. And please go and follow Angel on Instagram. I will link his handle right here as well as in the description. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.